My family used me. No kids, no husband. I paid for gas, Mom's mortgage, and my sister's car insurance. When I asked for a break, they called me selfish. I sent a 12-year payment sheet. The silence was deafening. My name is Ketty Garland. I am 32 years old, and it is now 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting on the floor of my rented apartment, opening a file called 12 Years with trembling fingers. On the table is a bottle of cheap wine, half empty. Red, sour, the kind they sell at a discount on Thursdays. On my phone screen is the latest message from the debt collectors. The gas bill at your mother's address has exceeded the critical amount. Disconnection in 48 hours. Pay immediately. The amount was $830. $830. That's about half of my monthly budget for food, transportation, and rent. That's what I was supposed to save for a trip to the sea, but no, not again. I just finished a phone call with my mother. She yelled for 23 minutes. I counted. You heartless parasite. Do you want me to freeze in the winter? Do you want your mother to sit in the cold? What kind of daughter are you? I was silent. I just listened. And then when she paused to take a breath, I said quietly, "Mom, I can't pay anymore." And she exploded. She called me selfish, a traitor, just like my father. Then she hung up. Now I'm sitting here, in the dark, and I opened the spreadsheet I've been keeping for the last 12 years. It started when I was 20. I had just graduated from college with a degree in graphic design. My joy lasted one day. The next day, my father left. He just packed his things and said, "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." My mother screamed, cried, threw things. Vivian, my sister, was 13. She sat in the corner of the room and trembled. I hugged her and whispered, "Everything will be fine. I promise." That same evening, my mother said to me, "Catherine, we're going to lose everything. The mortgage, the utilities, food, Vivian's school. We won't survive." She cried so bitterly, so hopelessly that I couldn't help but promise to help. "Temporarily, Mom, until you find a job." She nodded. "Course, honey, temporarily." Temporarily, 12 years. I got an internship at a small advertising agency. Salary, $800 a month. $300 went to my mother's mortgage. $150 went to utilities. $100 went to food for them. I had $250 left for everything else. I couldn't afford rent, so I lived in a dormitory for another 3 years. I ate instant noodles. I wore the same coat for 4 winters in a row. My colleagues invited me to parties, cafes, and movies. I refused. I said I was tired. In reality, I simply didn't have enough money even for a ticket. My mother promised to find a job, but her back, always her back. The doctor says I can't stand for long periods of time. Then, I can't sit for long periods of time. Then, it's better for me to lie down. I believed her. God, how I believed her. Every time I came home and saw her on the couch with a cup of coffee, watching TV shows, I told myself, "She's sick. It's hard for her. I have to help." Vivian graduated from high school. I hoped she would go to college, maybe get a job. But at 19, she got pregnant. The baby's father was Cole, a mechanic from the neighboring town, broad-shouldered with tattoos on his arms, smelling of grease and cheap cologne. They got married in 2 weeks. My mother cried with happiness. Finally, someone will take care of us. No one took care of us. Cole drank, at first on weekends, then every day. He beat Vivian when she disobeyed him, bruises on her arms, on her ribs. She hid them under long sleeves, under smiles. My mother didn't notice. "He works hard, Ketty. Men get nervous sometimes." I saw it, but I kept quiet. Because what could I do? I was barely keeping my head above water myself. I offered Vivian to move in with me, but she refused. He promised to change. He loves me. Every refusal was like a blow. 3 years later, Vivian left him. She returned to her mother with little Oliver in her arms. The boy was 2 years old. He cried at night, afraid of loud noises. "Kathy, I need help, at least for the time being." I started paying for her car insurance, $280 a year, then another $300 for winter tires, then $500 for engine repairs, until she gets back on her feet. That was 8 years ago. She still hasn't gotten back on her feet. She works as an administrator at a car dealership, but her salary barely covers Oliver's expenses. I never asked what those expenses were, and I just paid. 5 years ago, Uncle Renz moved in with my mother's brother. His wife died of cancer. He said, "Lorno, give me a month, just a month to get my head together." The month turned into years. He didn't pay his bills, he didn't buy food, but he bought vodka. Every day, I saw empty bottles when I came to visit. My mother said, "He's going through a hard time. Give him time." Time passed. Renz didn't change. He lost his job at the meat processing plant for showing up drunk, but no one talked about it. Everyone just hinted to me, "Renz is having a hard time. Maybe you could help with the utilities?" Time, money, my life. Everything was going well for them. In 12 years, I never got married. How could I? I didn't have money to go on dates. I didn't have time. After work, I did freelance work to earn more. A few times, men showed interest, but quickly disappeared when they saw that I was always busy, always tired, always nervous about the next bills. Once, a guy I had been dating for 3 months said, "Kitty, you're wonderful, but I'm not ready to be third after your mom and sister." He left. I didn't cry. I just nodded. He was right. Last week, I stopped by my mother's house unexpectedly. Just like that, with a cake. Hot, and it was her birthday. No one answered the door right away. I heard laughter from inside. I knocked again. Finally, my mother opened the door, upset, as if I had disturbed her. Behind her, 3 friends were sitting at a table set with expensive snacks. Salmon, cheese, wine, not cheap, bottled, real wine, in bottles with labels that I had seen in the supermarket but never bought. "Kitty, you didn't warn me." My mother was wearing a new blouse. Silk, blue with lace on the sleeves. "Come in quickly. It's cold out there." I went in. I saw a fur coat on a hanger. New, still with the tag on. $3,900. My heart sank. "Mom, where did you get the fur coat?" She waved her hand. "Oh, I found it on sale. For a song, a friend recommended the store." "A bargain. $3,000. That month, I denied myself new shoes because my boots were leaking and I had to pay for her gas. I walked around with wet feet all November. I didn't say anything. I put the cake on the table, greeted my friends who barely noticed me, and left. At home, I opened my mother's social media accounts. She posted photos, restaurants, spas, concerts, all from the last 6 months, captions, "I deserve a break. Life is beautiful. I'm treating myself." Under each photo, dozens of likes, comments, "Well done, Lorna. A woman should love herself." She's treating herself with my money, and I'm wearing a jacket that's 6 years old and eating pasta almost 8 days a week. I felt something crack inside me. Not sharply, slowly, like ice underfoot in spring. I asked them not to count on me in July, just this 1 month. I wanted to go to the sea. I hadn't been on vacation in 8 years. For 8 years, I worked without a break, denying myself everything so that they could live comfortably. I found a cheap hotel and calculated my budget. If I didn't pay for them for 1 month, I could go. My mother said, "How can you be so selfish?" "My back hurts. I need medicine. Do you want me to suffer?" Vivian added coldly, "Of course, it's easy for you to think only of yourself. You have no children, no husband, you have no expenses, and I'm raising Oliver on my own." "No expenses. Your expenses are my expenses. Your life is my bill." Uncle Renz grumbled from the kitchen, where he was pouring himself another glass. "I always knew you were selfish. Like father, like daughter, your father only thought about himself too." I hung up the phone. I sat down at the computer, and I started counting. 12 years of payments, every amount, every date. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, repairs, medicine, food, clothes for Oliver. Textbooks for Vivian when she was studying at beauty school for 2 years and dropped out. Even the little things. My mother's birthday, Christmas, gifts, Oliver's kindergarten tickets when Vivian couldn't afford to pay. $187,322. I added screenshots to the table, photos of my mother at a restaurant, a fur coat on a hanger, posts about spas. I opened my email. I created a group email, Mom, Vivian, Uncle Renz. I wrote, I'm attaching a file. Please read it. There will be no more payments. Deal with the collectors yourselves. And yes, I saw the fur coat. My finger hovered over the send button. My heart was pounding. I knew that after this, everything would change. That they would call me a monster. That they would say I had betrayed them. That I was a bad daughter, a bad sister. But they betrayed me first. Every time they took money and didn't say thank you. Every time they demanded more. Every time I became an invisible cash cow that existed only to give. I pressed send. 15 minutes later, the phone rang. Vivian? I hung up. Mom hung up. A text from Uncle Renz. You'll regret this, bitch. I blocked the number. The phone exploded with messages. Calls, calls, calls. I turned it off, sat on the floor, cried, but not out of guilt, out of relief. I cried and laughed at the same time. Because for the first time in 12 years, I felt like I was breathing. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Sharp, insistent. 1, 2, 3, 4. My mother's voice through the door, piercing and angry. Catherine, open the door. I know you're in there. Open it now. I didn't open it. I stood in the middle of the room, clasping my hands over my ears, listening to my mother knock the last remnants of my peace out of the door. She knocked, shouted, begged, threatened. Catherine, open up. I'm your mother. How dare you treat me like this? Then, fine, don't open up. But know this. You'll regret it. You'll lose me, and then you'll understand. Then more crying, sobbing through the door. Daughter, please. I feel sick. My heart. I didn't move. I just stood there and waited for it to end. An hour later, the knocking stopped. I heard heavy footsteps going down the stairs, then silence. I slid down the wall to the floor and sat there until morning. I didn't sleep. I just stared into space and thought, what have I done? The morning was gray and cold. I turned on my phone. 32 missed calls, 23 messages. I scrolled through them without reading them. Mom, Vivian, Vivian, Mom, Mom. Unknown number, Vivian. I was about to turn off my phone again when I saw a voicemail from my sister. I pressed play. Vivian's voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying all night. Katie, Mom's in the hospital. She got sick after she came back from your place. Her heart. She was barely breathing. We called an ambulance. She's in intensive care now. The doctors say, I don't know what they're saying. Just come. And yeah, if you care at all. Intensive care. Heart, Mom. I grabbed my keys and ran. The drive to the hospital took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. I drove, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers hurt, repeating to myself, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. But another voice inside whispered, what if it is? What if she really is dying? What if you killed her with your spreadsheet? Vivian was sitting in the emergency room. Her eyes were red, her face swollen. Next to her was Uncle Renz, who reeked of alcohol even from 3 meters away. He didn't look at me, just sat with his head bowed, staring blankly at the floor. Vivian saw me and jumped up. She ran up so suddenly that I flinched. You! Are you happy now? You gave her a heart attack! Her voice rose, and several people in the room turned around. If she had died, it would have been your fault. Do you hear me? Yours! I wanted to say something, but my throat was tight. I just stood there and looked at my sister, who hated me with every fiber of her being at that moment. Where is she? I finally managed to say. In the ward. The doctors say she's stable, but... Vivian cut herself off and turned away. Go. Go see what you've done." I walked past her to the reception desk. The nurse, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes, checked my documents and said, "Room 215, second floor on the left." I took the stairs because I didn't have the strength to wait for the elevator. The second floor corridor was long and white, smelling of bleach and something else. Illness, fear. I found room 215 and froze in front of the door. I wanted to open it, but my hand wouldn't obey me. I heard footsteps behind me. "Are you a relative of Mrs. Garland?" I turned around. A doctor, about 50 years old, in a white coat with a folder under her arm. Her face was tired, but her eyes were attentive. "Yes, I'm her daughter, Ketty." "Catherine, wonderful. I need to talk to you, privately." She nodded toward a small room next door, apparently the doctor's office. We went in. The doctor closed the door, sat down at the table, and gestured for me to sit across from her. "Your mother is healthy," she said without preamble. I blinked. "What? Healthy? Physically?" We did all the tests. Cardiogram, blood pressure, blood. Her heart is completely normal. What happened last night was a panic attack. It was triggered by stress, yes, but it's not dangerous. There are no medical indications for hospitalization. The doctor opened the folder and showed me the results. I looked at the numbers and graphs, but I didn't understand anything. My ears were ringing. But Vivian said that intensive care. Your mother was not admitted to intensive care. She insisted that she was feeling unwell and called an ambulance. But when she arrived at the hospital, all her vital signs were normal. We suggested that she stay for a few hours of observation and then go home, but she refused. She said she couldn't breathe, that her heart was breaking. We kept her in the ward overnight, but she should be discharged soon. I looked at the doctor and felt something cold spreading inside me. Is she faking it? The doctor sighed. "I can't make such diagnoses, but I can say that physically your mother is healthy. Everything else is psychological. Perhaps she needs help from another specialist." She looked at me for a long time, and there was something like pity in her gaze. "Is it hard for you?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Then be careful. Sometimes loved ones can hurt us more than strangers." I left the doctor's office on wobbly legs. I approached room 215. I opened the door. My mother was lying on the bed, pale, with her eyes closed. There were sensors on her head and an IV by the bed, even though the doctor said she didn't need medication. When the door creaked, my mother slowly opened her eyes. She saw me, and her face took on an expression of suffering so theatrical that it made me feel sick. "Catherine," she whispered weakly, You came." I wanted to say something. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But then the door behind me opened again. "Lorno, enough with the drama." A voice I hadn't heard in 6 years. I turned around. My father. He stood in the doorway, aged, gray-haired, wearing a cheap jacket, a bag in his hands. His face was worn, but his eyes were the same ones I remembered from childhood. Gray, calm. My mother froze on the bed. Her pale face turned red. "What are you doing here?" "I heard you were in the hospital. I came. I thought maybe it was something serious." He walked past me, approached the bed, and looked at the monitor with the readings. Then he looked at my mother. "The doctor told me everything. You're healthy, Lorna, as always." "Get out of here, Orkra," my mother's hissed. But her voice was no longer weak. It was sharp and angry. My father turned to me. "Kitty, we need to talk, alone." I nodded, not knowing what else to do. We left the room. My mother shouted something after us, but I couldn't make out the words. In the hallway, my father stopped by the window. He looked at the street, at the gray houses, at the rain that had begun to fall. He was silent for a long time. I was silent, too. I didn't know where to start. "Oh, I didn't cheat on you," he said finally. I shuddered. "What?" He turned to me. 6 years ago, when I left, Your mother told you I had a mistress, right? I nodded. Yes, she cried, said you had betrayed her, that you had left us for another woman. That's a lie. His voice was calm, but there was a dull pain in it. There was no mistress, never. I left because I couldn't live with the lie anymore. I looked at him, not understanding. What lie? He took a folder out of his pocket. It was old and crumpled. He opened it and handed me a few sheets. Read this. I took them. They were printed letters, emails, from my mother to a man named Peter. The dates were from 12 years ago. I started reading. Peter, he didn't give me money for a new bag again. He says the mortgage is more important. I'm so tired of this. I can't wait to get rid of him. The next letter. I told him I saw him with some woman. He denied it, but I insisted. Tomorrow I'm going to a lawyer. I want the house and alimony. Another one. The lawyer says if I can prove infidelity, I'll get more. I need to find witnesses. Can you help? I read and felt my insides churn. Did she make up the infidelity? My father nodded. Yes, she hired a lawyer and found 2 witnesses who allegedly saw me with my mistress. I couldn't prove it was a lie. The court believed her. I lost the house and paid alimony, and then I just left because I understood that if I stayed, she would destroy both me and you. She's already started turning you and Vivian against me. I sank down on a bench in the hallway. My hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell me then? Why did you just leave? Because you were 20. You were just starting your life. I didn't want you to be torn between us. I thought it would be easier that way. He sat down next to me. But now I see I was wrong. She used you, just like she used me. I covered my face with my hands. 12 years. I paid her mortgage for 12 years, and she was just playing games. I know, Ketty. He put his hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. We sat there in silence until a nurse walked by and looked at us in surprise. I wiped my face and stood up. I have to go, I said. Kathy, if you need help, I can... My father didn't finish, but I understood. Thank you, but I'll be fine. I walked to the exit without looking back. I went down the stairs and out onto the street. The rain was getting heavier. I stood under the awning trying to understand what had just happened. My phone rang. Unknown number. I wanted to hang up, but something made me pick up the phone. Catherine Garland? A man's voice, formal, cold. Yes. This is Detective Marsh, County Police. We have some questions about your uncle, Renz Taylor. When can you come to the station? I drove to the station in a fog. The rain didn't stop. The windshield wipers scraped across the glass, and one thought ran through my head. What else? What else could happen? The station turned out to be an old beige brick building with a neglected lawn in front of the entrance and a metal door that creaked when I opened it. Inside, it smelled of coffee, paper, and something sour. Sweat, fear. An officer sat behind the reception desk, young, with a bored expression on his face. Detective Marsh is waiting for you, he said without looking at me. He pointed to the hallway. 3rd room on the left. I walked down the hallway, counting the doors. 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I knocked. Come in. Detective Marsh turned out to be a man in his 50s, with short gray hair wearing a shirt with rolled-up sleeves. His face was tired, but his eyes were alert. He sat at a desk piled high with folders and pointed me to a chair across from him. Catherine Garland? He asked. Yes. Thank you for coming so quickly. This is urgent. He opened one of the folders and took out several documents. Your uncle, Rance Taylor, do you confirm the relationship? He is my mother's brother. He has been living with her for the past 5 years. The detective nodded and wrote something down. So, not with you, that's important? He looked up. Mr. Taylor is suspected of embezzlement and theft of property worth large sums of money. For the past 7 years, he has worked as an inspector at the McKinley meat processing plant. During that time, he systematically stole products, carcasses, semi-finished products, anything that could be taken away unnoticed, and sold them through frontmen. The total amount of damages exceeds $120,000. I froze. 120,000? Yes, we've been investigating the case for 3 months. Last night, one of his accomplices, who was arrested in connection with another case, confessed and named names. Among them is Renz Taylor. We have enough evidence to arrest him, but there's a problem. He looked at the folder again. When we checked his records, it turned out that he is not officially registered at your mother's address. He gave your address. Why? I felt cold. My address? I didn't know. He never lived with me. I understand. It seems he was trying to avoid having his property confiscated. If he had been registered at your mother's house, we would have had the right to search that house and confiscate anything that belonged to him or could be connected to the crime. But Nikki, if he gives a different address, yours, it complicates the process. The detective tilted his head to one side. Are you sure you knew nothing about his activities? Absolutely. I rarely saw him. He just lived at my mother's, drank. I thought he was just a loser. A loser with $100,000 in his pocket is not a loser. Marsh closed the folder. Your mother may be involved in the case if she knew about his activities and covered for him. There is no evidence yet, but we are continuing the investigation. Renza will be arrested within 24 hours. If your mother knows anything, it's better if she confesses herself. It will be easier. I nodded. Even though I knew my mother would never confess, she would rather drown than admit the truth. Is that all? I asked. For now, if you remember anything, call me. He handed me his business card. I took it, got up, and left. I walked out of the police station into the rain. I got in my car and rested my head on the steering wheel. $120,000. Uncle Renz was not a miserable widower mourning his wife. He was a thief, and my mother knew it. Of course she knew. Otherwise, where did she get the money for her fur coat in restaurants? The phone rang. It was my father. Kitty, did you talk to the police? His voice sounded worried. Yes, I just left. They say Renz stole from work. A lot of money. I know, they called me too, asked me questions. But there's one more thing. Renz called me last night. I sat up straight. What? He said that if I didn't help him with money for a lawyer, he would tell everyone that I beat your mother when we were married. That's a lie, Kitty. I never raised a hand to her. But he threatened to find witnesses, just like Lorna found witnesses to my affair. So be careful. He might want to scare you too, make you pay for them again. Be careful. I clenched the phone so hard my fingers hurt. He won't get a penny from me. Okay, but if he tries anything, call me or the police. Don't get involved in this yourself. I promised, and hung up. I sat in the car, watching the rain, and suddenly something flashed in my memory. A conversation. 2 years ago. I came to my mother's house. Renz was sitting in the kitchen, drunk as usual, muttering something under his breath. I heard fragments. We have to do everything right, so that no one finds out. Lorna knows how to do it. At the time, I didn't pay any attention. I thought he was just rambling. But now I understood. My mother knew. She always knew, and she covered for him, because he shared his money with her. I started the car and drove home. My head was splitting. I wanted to lie down, close my eyes, and wake up in a different life. The next week passed in a strange silence. My mother didn't call. Vivian was silent too. I went to work, fulfilled orders, came home, ate, slept, autopilot. I didn't think. I didn't feel. I just existed. And then, on Saturday evening, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. Vivian was standing on the threshold. No makeup, wearing an old jacket, her eyes red. Can I come in? Her voice was quiet, broken. I stepped back. She walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. I made coffee and sat down across from her. Cole is back, she finally said. I tensed up. What? He heard about Mom, that she was sick. He came and asked if he could help. He helped a little. Brought groceries. Fixed the door in the house. And then he said he'd changed, that he wanted to come back, that Oliver needed a father. Vivian bit her lip, trying not to cry. Mom insists that I give him a chance. She says that if he's coming back, it means he really wants to be with us, that I'm lucky. Do you believe him? I asked. No. She looked at me, and there was so much fear in her eyes that it hurt me. I don't believe him. He's the same person. He didn't come for me or Oliver. He came because he found out that Renz was arrested, that my mother was left without money. He thinks I'm easy prey. Then why didn't you tell him to leave? Because he threatens me. Vivian's voice broke. He says he has a right to Oliver, that he'll take him through the courts, that I'm a bad mother because I can't provide for him, that if I don't go back to him, he'll sue me, win custody, and make me pay child support. Ketty, I'm scared. I can't lose my son. I reached out and took her hand. You won't lose him. We'll find a lawyer. He has no right to threaten you. This is intimidation. I don't have money for a lawyer. I'll help. The words came out on their own. I didn't think. I just knew I had to do it. Not for her sake, for Oliver's sake, so that at least something in this family would end right. Vivian cried, not loudly, quietly through her fingers. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I said to you. I didn't understand. I thought it was easy for you, that you were just a miser who didn't want to share. But now I see you were the only one keeping us all afloat. I hugged her for the first time in many years. We sat there, two sisters who had finally stopped fighting. The next day, I started looking for a lawyer. I found a woman named Clarissa Bennett, a specialist in family law. I arranged a consultation. Vivian came with me. Clarissa listened to the story and nodded. Threats are a crime. I can file a restraining order. If he tries anything, we have evidence. Don't worry, Oliver will stay with you. Vivian smiled for the first time in a week. A month later, when I was already getting used to the new rhythm, no calls from my mother, no demands for money, no guilt, an unknown number called. Catherine Garland? A familiar male voice. Yes? This is Liam. Liam Foster. You did the packaging design for me last year. I remembered. A quiet client who ordered a design for a line of organic soap. We met twice. He was polite, paid on time. Yes, of course. How can I help you? I'm launching my own line of eco-cosmetics, skincare. I need a designer on a permanent basis. I remembered your work. It was honest, no pretension. Exactly what I need. I would like to offer you a collaboration. The fee is twice your current salary. If you're interested, let's meet and discuss the details. I was silent for a second, digesting what I had heard. Twice as much. That meant freedom. Real freedom. Yes, I'm interested. Great, I'll email you the details. Thank you, Catherine. He hung up. I stood in the middle of the room, holding the phone, unable to believe it. Something good. Finally, something good. But the happiness didn't last long. 3 days later, my mother called. Her voice was trembling, panicked. Katie, we need to meet. The police took Renz. They came to me, asked questions. They're threatening me. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. Help me. Please. I clutched the phone and thought, do I want to hear this? Do I want to get caught up in this web again? Where do you want to meet? I heard my voice say. The coffee shop my mother chose turned out to be cheap. Plastic tables, a menu on the wall, the smell of fried fat. I arrived early, sat in the corner, and ordered coffee. It was bitter and cooled quickly. I didn't drink it. I just held the cup in my hands and looked out the window. My mother showed up 10 minutes later. I barely recognized her. No makeup, gray hair, uncolored, pulled back in a ponytail. An old jacket, jeans with faded knees. Her face was gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked her 56 years, maybe even older. She sat down opposite me, not looking me in the eye. Thank you for coming. I nodded. I was silent. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I wanted to say anything at all. The police came. She began quietly, twice. They asked questions about Renz, about whether I knew what he was doing, about money, whether he gave me anything. I said no. I said I didn't know. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red and tired. But they don't believe me. They say they can charge me as an accomplice, that if I knew and kept quiet, that's also a crime. I took a sip of cold coffee. And you really didn't know? She hesitated. She looked down. I didn't know the details. I didn't know the extent of it, but he gave me money from time to time. He said it was extra income. I didn't ask where it came from. Her voice broke. I didn't want to know. Of course you didn't. I put the cup on the table, because then you would have had to admit that you were living off stolen money. Katie, how much did he give you? I interrupted her. How much of that money went to the fur coat? To restaurants? To the spa? She turned pale. Not that much. A few thousand a year. I thought he was just thrifty, that he was saving his salary. You're lying. I said it calmly, without shouting. I just stated a fact. You've always been good at lying, Mom, even to yourself. Lorna covered her face with her hands. She cried, quietly, without sobbing. I know I'm bad, that I ruined everything. But he threatened me. Renz. When I tried to ask about the money, he said he would tell everyone the truth about me, about the fact that She fell silent. I waited. Finally, she continued, barely audibly. 20 years ago, before I met your father, I worked in a nightclub. Not as a waitress, as a dancer. Do you understand what I mean? She looked at me through her tears. I didn't do that, but I danced. For money. I took my clothes off for money. Renz knew. He was the only one who knew because he helped me find that job. And he threatened to tell the neighbors. You, your father, if he found out. I was afraid that everyone would find out, that everyone would turn away. I listened and felt nothing. No shock, no pity, no anger, just fatigue. And you thought that justified everything else. No, I didn't. I was just afraid. You're always afraid. I got up and grabbed my bag. You're afraid of the truth, afraid of responsibility, afraid to live without someone to pay for your fears. I stood up. Katie, wait, she grabbed my arm. Help me. I need a lawyer. If the police find evidence, well, I'll go to jail. Please, I'm your mother. I pulled my hand away. You had 12 years to be honest. 12 years to be a mother, not a leech. I can't save you anymore by paying money. I don't want to be an ATM, not a daughter. I walked to the exit. Behind me, I heard her voice. Desperate. You'll regret this. When I die, you'll regret it. I didn't turn around. I went out into the street and breathed in the cold air. My hands were shaking, but inside I felt calm. A cold, empty calm. I returned home an hour later. I made some tea and sat down at my laptop. I checked my email. A letter from Liam with project details. I started a new job a week ago, and it was different. He didn't demand the impossible. He didn't pressure me with deadlines. He just set the task, trusted me, and waited. I was designing packaging for his new line. Minimalist, clean, without anything superfluous. He said it was exactly what he needed. Honesty without pretension. I smiled when he said that. I hadn't smiled at work in a long time. We met twice a week in his office, a small room on the second floor of an old building with a large window and a table covered with product samples. It smelled of lavender, mint, something fresh. He explained what he wanted to convey to customers. I listened, took notes, drew sketches. We didn't talk about personal stuff, just work. But one day he asked, "You look tired. Is everything okay?" I wanted to brush it off as usual, but something in his gaze, calm, Non-judgmental, made me stop. Family stuff, nothing serious. He nodded. He didn't press further. He just said, "I understand. If you need a break, let me know." It was strange. No one had ever asked me if I needed a break. It was always the opposite. "When will you be done? Why is it taking so long? Why aren't you working faster?" I worked from home for 3 days straight. I immersed myself in it. It helped me not to think about my mother, about rents, about all this trouble. I finished the first version of the packaging and sent it to Liam. He replied an hour later. "Great, just what we need. Can we meet tomorrow to discuss the details?" We met at his office. He showed me the mock-ups and told me about the launch plans. I listened, made corrections, and we just worked. I drove home with a strange feeling in my chest. Lightness. Hope. Something new. I wasn't just working. I felt that finally there was a future in this. There was growth. There was hope. But at home, a call was waiting for me. Vivian. Her voice was hysterical, broken. "Katie, Cole was at school. He tried to take Oliver. I don't know what to do." I grabbed my keys. "I'm coming. I'll be right there." She was waiting for me at the school. Oliver was standing next to her, holding his mother's hand. His face was tear-stained, his eyes wide and frightened. Vivian was shaking all over. "What happened?" I hugged her. "He came at the end of class. He told the teacher that he was the father and that he was taking his son. She didn't know about the divorce and wanted to let him go. But Oliver started crying and screaming that he didn't want to go. The teacher got scared and called me. I came and he was there. He was yelling that it was his son, that he had the right." She choked on her words. "I'm scared, Katie. I'm scared to let Oliver go anywhere. What if he comes back?" I wiped the tears from my nephew's face. "He won't. I'll call Clarissa. She'll file a restraining order. He won't be able to come near you. But that will take time. Then you'll stay with me tonight, both of you. And until the restraining order is in place, you're staying with me." We arrived at my place. Vivian settled Oliver on the sofa and gave him a tablet with cartoons. I called Clarissa. She listened, promised to file the petition in the morning. But the process will take a few days, maybe a week. Be careful. In the evening, Vivian and I sat in the kitchen drinking tea. Oliver fell asleep. My sister looked exhausted. I thought he had forgotten about us. So much time has passed. "He heard about rents, about Mom being broke. He decided you were easy prey." She nodded. "Probably, but I'm not going back. Even if he takes Oliver away through the courts, I'm not going back to that hell." I took her hand. "He won't take him, I promise." I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Vivian and Oliver breathing in the living room. I thought about Cole, about how he might try again, about how I had to be ready. At 2 a.m, I heard a knock on the door. Sharp, insistent. I got up and went to the door. I looked through the peephole. Cole. He was standing on the landing, swaying, drunk. He was pounding on the door with his fist. "Give me my son. Give me Oliver. He's mine." His voice was loud and slurred. "Give him to me, bitch, before I break down the door." I stepped back. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911. "Police?" "There's a drunk man at my address threatening me, trying to break in. Yes, I have a child in my apartment. Yes, I'm afraid." The operator promised that a patrol would be there in 10 minutes. I went back to the living room. Vivian was awake, sitting on the sofa, holding Oliver close. He was crying. "Is that Daddy? Why is he shouting?" "Don't be afraid, little one. The police will be here soon to take him away." Cole continued to bang on the door, then he started kicking it. The door was shaking. I stood in the hallway, clutching the phone, praying that it would hold. 8 minutes later, I heard sirens. The knocking stopped. Cole's voice. "What? I'm not doing anything. I just want my son." Then noise, fighting, shouting. I opened the door and went out into the stairwell. 2 police officers were holding Cole, twisting his arms behind his back. He was resisting, screaming, "This is my family, my son. Give him back to me." One of the police officers looked at me. "Did you call?" "Yes." "He tried to break down the door. He was threatening. My sister and her child are in my apartment. He is my sister's ex-husband. We are filing a restraining order. Understood. We'll take him away. You will need to give a statement. Cole was led to the elevator. Before the doors closed, he turned and looked at me. His eyes were red, his face contorted with hatred. You'll regret this. You'll all regret this. I'll destroy you. The elevator doors closed. I stood there, trembling. One of the police officers stayed behind, took my details, and explained the procedure. He'll be detained for 48 hours. We heard the threats, and that will be evidence in court if necessary. I thanked him and returned to the apartment. Vivian was sitting on the sofa, hugging Oliver. He had his eyes closed, but he wasn't asleep. He was just trembling. It's over, I said. They took him away. He won't be coming back. Vivian started crying. I sat down next to them and hugged them both. We sat like that until morning. 3 days later, Clarissa called. The trial is set for next week. Considering the threats, the cameras in the house, the teacher's testimony, and the police reports, we have a strong case. But I need the final payment for preparing the documents and representation. I shuddered. How much? $1,500. You remember, we agreed on $3,000 in total. You've already paid $1,500. I froze. $1,500. I gave Vivian $2,000. She said it was for the lawyer. I'll check with my sister and call you back. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I approached Vivian, who was sitting in the kitchen. Clarissa said you paid $1,500. I gave you $2,000. Vivian turned pale. She lowered her eyes. Katie, where's the rest? My voice was quiet but cold. Mom, she asked for it. She said she needed a lawyer, that the police might arrest her. I couldn't refuse. She looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to deceive you. It's just, she's so persistent, so I couldn't refuse her anymore. I stood silently. I looked at my sister, at the woman I had saved, for whom I had risked everything, whom I trusted. She took my money, I said finally. Again, because of you, again. Katie, I'll pay you back, I promise. Just give me time. I turned and went to the bedroom. I closed the door, I sat down on the bed, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry. I just sat there, in silence, and I thought, when will this end? When will they finally let me go? For 2 days, we lived in the same apartment. Like ghosts. Vivian slept on the couch with Oliver, and I slept in my bedroom. We didn't talk. We crossed paths in the kitchen. She made breakfast for her son, and I made coffee for myself. We nodded to each other. We were silent. Oliver sensed it. He looked at his mother, then at me with his big, sad eyes. Once he asked quietly, Auntie Ketty, are you mad at us? I sat down and hugged him. No, sweetie, not at you, never at you. But he didn't believe me. Children always sense when you're lying. On the 3rd day, Vivian broke down. In the evening, when Oliver fell asleep, she knocked on my door. I was reading and didn't answer right away. She knocked again. Kitty, hey, can I come in? I put down my book. Come in. She came in and sat on the edge of the bed. She looked devastated. No makeup, an old t-shirt, unwashed hair. Her hands were shaking. I have something to tell you. I waited. I didn't help her. I just watched. I gave my mother $500. Her voice was quiet, broken. $1,200. She called me every day. She cried. She said the police were questioning her, that she was facing jail, that she was old and sick and would die there, that without a lawyer she would lose, and then we would be left without a mother. She looked at me, her eyes red. I couldn't take it. I know it's your money, that you gave it for my trial, but I just couldn't refuse her. She's my mother. I couldn't watch her suffer. I was silent. I looked at my sister, at the woman who, again and again and again, chose her mother, not herself, Not me, not the truth. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I'm ashamed, and I'm so ashamed, Ketty. I'll understand if you kick me out. If you don't want to talk to me anymore, I deserve it." I sighed, long, wearily. "I won't kick you out. Oliver isn't to blame. But I can't forgive him. Not now. Maybe never." I looked her in the eyes. "I'm tired, Vivian. Tired of being an ATM for my family. For everyone. Always. I just want to live. Just exist. Without feeling like I'm being used for money." She nodded, wiping away her tears. "I understand. I promise. Never again. I'll never take money from you again, even if Mom dies, even if the world ends. I promise." I didn't answer. I didn't know whether to believe him. I didn't know if I wanted to believe him. The trial was the following week. I helped Vivian gather the last of the money for Clarissa. I took it from my savings, which I had set aside for emergencies. This was an emergency. Oliver was more important than my savings. The three of us arrived at the courthouse, me, Vivian, and Clarissa. Cole sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with a cheap lawyer whom he had apparently hired with his last money. He looked sober, dressed in a respectable suit. But when the judge entered and Clarissa began to present her evidence, Cole's face began to change. His threats from the camera. "You'll regret it. You'll all regret it. I'll destroy you." The teacher's testimony. The child cried and screamed that she didn't want to go with him. I couldn't let her go with a clear conscience. My statement and the police. He tried to break down the door at 2 a.m, threatened and frightened the child. Cole tried to justify himself. "She's my child. I have rights. They turned my son against me. They're lying." But his voice sounded hollow. The judge looked at him coldly, without sympathy. The verdict was announced an hour later. Termination of parental rights, restraining order prohibiting him from coming within 100 meters for 5 years. Any violation. Immediate arrest. Vivian cried, quietly through her hands. I hugged her. Oliver is safe now. Finally. 2 weeks later, Vivian got a new job. She was a manager at a premium car dealership with a salary a third higher than her previous one. She rented a small one-room apartment, but it was hers. She moved in with Oliver and started taking him to a child psychologist. The boy was gradually recovering from his ordeal. He stopped being afraid of knocks on the door and began to smile more often. But a month after the trial, his mother called again. At first, Vivian said, "Daughter, I need help. I won the case. The lawyer did a good job, but now I have to pay a fine of $500. Otherwise," she didn't finish, but the hint was clear. Vivian gave her the money. Then she called me, crying. I couldn't refuse. She said it was the last time. The last time, Ketty. I didn't yell. I just said, "Okay." And I hung up. A week later, my mother called me. I didn't answer. She sent me a text message. "Catherine, I'm your mother. How can you ignore me? I need help. $300 for utilities, please." I didn't reply. I blocked her number. 2 days later, Vivian called me, her voice breaking. Mom asked for money again. She said she needed it for medicine. I said no. For the first time in my life, I said no to her. She cried. She called me an ungrateful bitch. She said I was a bad example for my son, that she regretted giving birth to me. I hung up. I blocked her. I can't do this anymore, Ketty. I don't want to anymore. I listened and thought. Finally, she understood. The next few months were strange, quiet. Vivian and I started communicating differently. She called not to ask for money, but just to talk. She talked about work, about Oliver, about her fears and hopes. She asked about me, how I was doing, how the project was going, if I was tired. For the first time in 20 years, she was interested in my life. She started paying me back, $100 a month. I didn't expect it. I didn't count on it. But she paid it back, and every time she wrote, "Thank you for not turning away from me, even when I deserved it." I didn't respond. I just took the money And slowly, very slowly, something inside began to thaw. The work with Liam was going well. The product hit the market in April. Minimalist design, eco-friendly packaging, honest advertising without pretension. Orders started coming in. First dozens, then hundreds. After 3 months, Liam hired 2 assistants and rented more space. His business was growing, and I was growing with it, professionally, financially, internally. We worked together almost every day. Meetings, presentations, discussions of new ideas. There was trust, calm, mutual understanding between us. He didn't flirt. I wasn't looking for romance. Simple human closeness without obligations was enough for both of us. Once he asked, "Are you happy, Catherine?" We were sitting in his office, drinking coffee after a long meeting. I thought for a moment. "I don't know, but I'm calm for the first time in a long time." He nodded. "That's a lot, too." In July, Vivian called with an unexpected offer. "Kathy, I want to go to the sea with Oliver and with you. I'll pay for everything. The hotel, the trip, everything. I just want us to relax together like a family." Her voice was timid, hopeful. I was silent. I remembered that conversation with my mother 12 years ago when I first wanted to go to the seaside, and she said, "How can you think about a vacation when we're having such a hard time?" "Okay," I said finally. "Let's go." Vivian laughed like a little girl. "Really? You agree? Oh my God, I'm so happy. I've already looked at the hotel. It's small, quiet, on the shore. We'll go for the weekend, 3 days, just looking at the water and doing nothing." We went in mid-July. The hotel was indeed small. A wooden building, 6 rooms, a private beach. Vivian booked 2 rooms, one for herself and Oliver, the other for me. "So you have your own space," she said. On the first day, we just lay on the beach. Oliver built sandcastles. Vivian read a magazine, and I watched the waves. The sun was scorching, the wind was salty, seagulls were screaming overhead. I closed my eyes and felt something inside me relax. For the first time in 12 years, this was my sea, finally mine. In the evening, we had dinner at the hotel restaurant. Grilled fish, vegetables, white wine for Vivian and me, lemonade for Oliver. He talked about school, his friends, and his desire to become a veterinarian. Vivian listened, smiled, and stroked his head. I looked at them and thought, we really are a family. Not a perfect one. Broken, stitched together with living thread, but a family. The next day, as I sat on the sand by the water, my phone rang. My mother. I looked at the screen. Her name, her number. My heart sank as usual, but I didn't answer. I put the phone down beside me. I didn't block it. I just rejected the call. A minute later, a text message arrived. "Catherine, I need money for medicine. Please, don't ignore me. I'm your mother." I read it. I put the phone down. I looked at the waves. I thought, maybe someday we'll find a way to exist at a distance, without money, without manipulation. But not now. Right now, I'm here. And this is mine. "Excuse me, is this seat free?" A man's voice from the side. I looked up. A man of about 35 wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a towel over his shoulder. Dark hair, tanned skin, smiling easily. There's not much shade here, and I forgot my hat. I nodded. "Of course." He spread his towel nearby and sat down. He took out a book and started reading. We were silent for about 15 minutes. Then he looked at me. "Are you vacationing here?" "Yes, with my sister and nephew." "I'm alone. I ran away from work for 3 days." He smiled. "Sometimes you just need to look at the water, right?" "Right." We started talking. His name was Noah, and he worked as an engineer at a plastic processing plant. He lived in a neighboring town and came here because he needed peace and quiet. He talked about his work, about how difficult it was to convince people to sort their trash. but how cool it was to see the results. I told him about design and about an eco-product project. It turned out that we both believed in the same thing, honesty without pretension. We saw each other on the beach for the next 2 days. We had breakfast together at a restaurant, walked along the shore, talked about books, music, life. Vivian winked at me once. "He's cute." I rolled my eyes. "He's just an acquaintance." But something warm appeared inside me, something new, timid but real. On the last day before leaving, Noah asked, "Can I have your number, if you don't mind? Maybe we'll meet in the city sometime, have a coffee." I gave it to him. He smiled. "Thanks. It was nice to meet you, Catherine." We exchanged numbers. I didn't know if it would turn into something more. Maybe he would never call. Maybe it was just a nice coincidence on the beach. But maybe it was something else. And I wasn't afraid of that maybe. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. We returned home in the evening. Vivian dropped me off at the entrance and hugged me tightly. "Thank you for going. It was important. For me. For us." I nodded. "Me too." I went up to my apartment, opened the door, put down my bag, made some tea, and sat by the window. I looked at the city, the lights, the dark sky. My phone was lying nearby. The message from my mother was still unread. I didn't open it. I didn't delete it. I just left it where it was. I thought, the scars will remain. You can't fix a family in a day. My mother is out there, alone, and maybe she really does need help, but not mine, not anymore. Renz is in prison. My father is far away. We write to each other sometimes, and that's okay. Not close, but honest. Vivian is trying, paying back her debts, building her life. Oliver is growing up safe. Everything is broken, glued together, cracked. But I'm here, alive, free. For the first time in 32 years, I don't feel guilty for simply existing, for choosing myself. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Noah. "Good morning. Thanks for these 3 days. If you want, we can meet for coffee this weekend. No strings attached, just a talk." I smiled. I wrote, "With pleasure." I put my phone down. I walked to the window. It was dawn. The city was waking up. I watched the sunrise and thought, maybe I don't know what will happen next. Maybe nothing will work out with Noah. Maybe Vivian will be wrong again. Maybe my mother will try to contact me again. But right now, at this moment, I know for sure the bills are paid. All of them. Even the ones I didn't know about. I don't owe anyone anything anymore. My life is mine. It's not perfect. It's not magical. But it's real. And finally, it belongs to me. I made coffee, opened my laptop. Liam sent a new project, a product line for teenagers. Interesting. I started sketching, and for the first time in 12 years, work wasn't an escape from life. It was part of life. Mine.